know, the usual stuff. The usual stuff. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just working for and I would have done the same. The Act of Parliament this talks about the surplus, using any surplus for the benefit of people. It talks about the surplus from toll charges, i.e. after all the costs, which is not clearly used capital as well. I'm just saying, it's this is a government document.
It should be on the. I've read it a number of times. It was on the old website.
Statement.
There's two documents.
It's not on the charity commission.
Okay. I'll have to look. Okay. Okay. I'm going to record some questions. Okay. Am I live, are we, Simon?
Yep, well, I
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's 4th of April, and prior to the STC extraordinary meeting, we're going to have a little bit of time discussing the finance and assets working group agenda. There's a couple of things that we can get as updates, possibly Colin from you around the assets officer role in a minute. But in terms of the meeting itself, just want to check, apologies, we've got apologies from Councillor Gray, who's travelling. Everybody else is in the room. Any declarations of interest this evening?
No.
No. The last meeting was the 22nd of February. Draft minutes were issued. Was everybody content with those? I'm happy for them to be brilliant. Okay. Shall I have a quick look, see if there are any outstanding actions that we need to discuss today? I don't think there are. Just bear with me.
Well, there was an action that you and I would need to discuss.
Which we did. Yeah. Okay, and that was the only one, wasn't it? That's current, that needs to be talked about, I think. Have a quick look. Oh yes, and we also did the visit to Boatman's Chapel, so that happened about 3 weeks ago. Okay, so in terms of today's agenda, it feels like we've got to sort of a little bit of a logjam around stuff, in the sense that we've done a lot of good work. We've got the draft asset data sheet. We've also got a shitload of information on different assets. It's about how we then start dropping that information into the assets data sheet. So what I did was I printed off all of the various pieces of information we got. I just wondered, and I'm happy to take advice in another way, but we might just want to turn the pages on these within the hour that we've got, make some progress, and just identify the key bits in each of the emails as far as we can get, that we can drop into the data sheets. Very basic, but I really haven't got another better suggestion unless somebody else has got one.
Well, I think for me the key thing is to be clear that we're all happy with the asset data sheet.
Yep.
Because once we're clear with it, well then the plan really is to replicate it, I think 19 times, because the council owns or leases or whatever 19 different properties in total as far as I'm aware. So the important thing is to try and get it so that we've got the best possible overall fit. At the end of the day, it probably will be little exceptions, but we want to be clear about it, because otherwise we're going to have to change it all of the time, and it loses and it becomes unfit for purpose. So that's the first thing. The second thing then, in my mind, is that we need to decide which are the assets to focus on and prioritise and make them the ones that we go to complete first off. And then working through documentation and so forth and filling in the asset data sheets is a laborious job. Maybe the asset officer or various people who intimately or have better knowledge about a particular asset can have a pop up.
I think that's really helpful, and I'm happy to deviate from what was my laborious plan to something that's probably better, is to get that, make sure we're all content with the data sheets, and if we've got that done, then I suppose, Peter, it may not be an endless job, because as we start to drop some of the information in, we might think, hold on a minute, it may need to be slightly tweaked. I think it's right to go through the data sheet itself as a group. Because we've talked about it, I think collectively we need to have it first. Karen, I think we're trying to get my attention.
If I can make a suggestion, that it takes the form of a spreadsheet, because then it can be replicated very easily, and we could set up links between the sheets if there are duplications.
Yeah.
And it might be easier to view the information if it was sort of in boxes instead of a list.
Yeah, and Peter's done it in Excel, so that's
Okay, maybe I haven't seen that.
a good start. And I'm going to swap over, and whilst we do that, Colin, could you give us an update on the asset officer role? Because the timing of filling that is, for me, it might be the saviour coming over the hill, but equally it may be too far away to help.
Yeah, so HR committee met, was it last week?
Yes.
Yeah. And the paper that the town clerk and I put up was discussed, which was basically arguing that the asset officer role, we weren't successful in recruiting to that role in December for various reasons. And I think one of the reasons we failed to find a really good candidate was that it was only a 12-month appointment. So the recommendation to last week's meeting was that we make it a permanent appointment on the basis that a certain proportion of that cost would be self-funded through the activities of the assets officer by bringing in more rental income and saving money on utilities and other bills, insurance, all those kind of asset costs, and that was agreed. The provisional figure in the report was 10,000, but it was paid per annum. But there was some discussion about that because it was felt it would be an early quick hit in the year one and year two, certainly on utilities, and that might reduce over time. And there was then some discussion about whether that was realistic, but also whether it should be a permanent position. And what we talked about was making the bringing in of additional income and the savings a kind of performance goal for that person, so that they could be judged on their performance, year by year. I mean, clearly, if the additional funds don't come in and the savings aren't made, then we will have to review that post at some point in the future based on lack of performance. But so that was agreed, and when we first talked about this back in December, in January rather, we were talking about bringing in someone on a 3-month contract just to do this work. Someone with legal expertise.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't yet seen the minutes, and the discussion wasn't absolutely clear. But I think we need to decide whether that's now relevant. If we now go to fill that post as soon as we can. I'm not quite clear with HR decisions, whether that decision can be implemented or whether it has to come to council or, you know,
Not offhand, I'm afraid, I can't say yes or no.
I had assumed it would come to SDC for
Yeah.
agreement, but,
so it will come to the April meeting.
anyway, 29.
But I think before then, I'll talk to the town clerk,
Yeah.
but clearly we need to have everything geared up,
Yeah.
subject to it being agreed, so that we can go out to adverts ASAP and get someone appointed over the summer.
So, yeah, so two observations, Colin. One is about the recruitment itself. Even if we take it to the end of April and we've got all the ducks lined up in a row, we're not going to have somebody for 3 months after that. So we've got to be realistic about that. But I just have a question around this intention of having a role that generates is self-financing to a percentage.
Yeah.
My question is, have we checked, because this is a council employee, have we checked that contractually we can build that into a role and therefore advertise it on that basis? Or alternatively, which is my suspicion, it's more about it's an objective you set for the individual rather than say you will only be employed if you deliver 30% of return against your salary. So has that been checked? Because I'm worried that you can't go out in terms of public sector unless it's a consultant or a contractor, if it's actually an employee, to say you've got to bring money.
Yeah.
And this is just about, it's just cautionary rather than
Yeah.
has it been checked.
I think I need to speak to the town clerk on that.
Yeah.
But there was, you probably saw the film.
I did.
There was some discussion about
There
it.
was.
And I made the point that in some sectors there are people who are commission only.
Yes,
Whether that can apply in local government is another matter. But clearly you can make it part of someone's contract that they have objectives for the year.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And
Yeah, and you
one
can
of the-
write a job spec that says, you would be expected.
These are your targets,
Yeah.
and one of your targets would be to bring in
Yeah.
X thousand
Yeah.
pounds of additional income,
Yeah.
to make savings of X thousand pounds. So, clearly they have to be reasonable targets, not unreasonable.
Yeah.
But if at the end of that year the person has failed even to be anywhere near those targets, then I think there's a legitimate case to say, okay, we need to review your performance and that. But I'll check
Yes, please.
the exact details of that with the town clerk. But clearly there are, as we've been discussing, there are various opportunities to increase income. There's Cowleys Meadow, there's Breakfast Chapel, the Fish Pond, the Guildhall, etc.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we need this person in post
I agree.
as soon as possible. And I think probably you're right, the 3-month contract is worth pursuing.
Yeah.
I'm presuming, Karen, that the salary for this post was built into last year's budget, and that money has not been spent. So,
It was built into this year's budget.
into this year.
When I saw the first.
So we do have the capacity to employ someone for 3 months.
Because my ideal situation would be, we collectively say we're happy with this, we give that to an individual for a period who's got the right expertise, and actually then just crunches all the detail we've found, then comes back to us with these are the gaps, this is what we're able to produce. Because, we are councillors, we do have to put time in of our own for this, whereas somebody comes into 3 months on to do a role, much more progress than yours.
Yeah. That's the way I see it. The spreadsheet, presumably we all enter our bits separately, and we end up with a kind of skeleton of maybe that's 60%, 70% accurate, and this person is, so they're off to a standing start. They get the data.
They would need to check it and validate
Yeah,
it, so they
yeah.
might as well do it from scratch in many
Yeah.
respects.
Yeah.
They're given a kind of sequence to work at, I think, so that they can, my old boss used to say, grab the low-hanging fruit first.
Yeah. And the other thing that was discussed at HR committee was that this group should work with the HR committee on drawing up the job description, the person investigation, and also be involved in recruitment. So we need to, because I think it's critical that we are having an input to that.
Yeah, I'm always happy to review it. Anything from you, Daniel?
No, I think from that, you're just.
Of course, you were there as
You
well.
were chairing.
I was.
Yes.
But I think you some
Have I
of
missed anything that was
No, I think not yet. No, I think still something you can't mention to carry on. I try to remember that it's like, long weekend, I forgot all about
There was a
it.
whole range of stuff
The
discussed.
three
Yeah.
short-term fixes were the 3 months for this work.
Yeah.
Appointing an interim market manager,
Mm,
which we've decided is not required,
mm.
and also the consultant who we had in mind anyway to do the utility work, and I think that's still being pursued.
Yes, yes, I think so.
The last I heard was that that person was asked to put in a bid for this building to kick off, and then work, take it from there.
Mm,
Thank
that's
you.
it, yeah.
Okay, so thanks for that, Colin and Danielle. So should we have a look at the spreadsheet and let's.
Okay, so this is the spreadsheet, which runs to something like 57 rows. So let me just blow it up. So what we've got it divided into 4 sections. So if you look in column A, there's the legal section, there's the asset management, and there's the financial, 3 sections. So under the legal, what we're trying to establish is it a freehold property? If it is, have we got the title deeds? Have we got the conveyancing data? Have we got any planning permissions or applications associated with it? Have we got details of the loan? If there is a loan, a kind of agreement or a mortgage is perhaps a better thing. If it's a lease property, have we got a copy of the lease? Who's the freeholder? What's the term break and the dates? What's the annual rent and what permissions? And by that we mean copies of information, about reassignment and so forth. If it's a rented property, who is our tenant? Where's the lease agreement? Where's the rent and rent review dates? Have we given them any permissions? Have we got copies of all correspondence? So that's all the type of thing about the legal aspects of it. And then the asset management, the condition of it, have we got a condition survey? Have we got a maintenance plan? Which is a maintenance plan for Sandwich Town Council or is there a maintenance plan for the lessee or whoever owns it? Has we got an energy survey, EPC rating? Are there any heritage aspects that we need to note? Are there any condition reports, specialist reports, whether it's timber or damp or electrical reports or whatever? Then there's the safety management aspects, the fire, the gas, the electrical, lift. So if there is a lift in the building, it needs testing every 12 months and gas inspections, landlord gas inspections and so forth. And then there's all the information about the utilities, and in that I've included the insurance. So have we got the insurance certificates, the gas, who's the supplier, what's the reference number, is it all up to date? Gas, electric, water, council tax, if that's relevant. Alarms and closed circuit TV, any internet connections. And then operation and maintenance, what about the keys? Have we actually got keys and access to? What about the routine maintenance plan and what's down in terms of the major repairs? And then the financial, have we got the valuations, acquisition, the book value, the current asset value, what's the income? Have we got any capital provision? How is that estimate put together? And have we got a spend profile for it? So those are all of the questions you could ask about an asset. So then there's what do we do? So the title deeds, and this is where we talked, I think, last time about having links or folders of setting out where that information can be found, because this is just a summary document. And then there's the ability to put a red, amber, green report about things to be able to give a visual display. So grey would be that doesn't apply here. Red is it's missing or it's urgently required. Amber is some information but it's unchecked or it's out of date. The green would mean the documentation is in place and up to date. So that's the thing, and as I say, that sheet, once we've agreed it, it's easy to copy the sheet and develop it for the 18 different properties. And I've put in there, for instance, that the name of the asset is the drill hall, and its description, it's a grade 1 listed building, it's the old ATC hall on the quay. That's the postcode and that's the map reference number of it, so people know where it is.
Is it grade 1 listed? It will be.
Well, whatever, you know, whatever. You know, I don't know, I've just locked this in as an example.
Nice.
So that's what I have, and I'm, you know, not saying it's right, but if anybody's got any comments or seeks any improvement.
Yeah, just two things. You've got freeholder. I think it would be at the top under legals. I think it should say freeholder and lessor, because it might be sublet by the freeholder and the lessor might be different.
Okay, so we actually probably need a row in to say.
Lessor. And also under the safety items, water is another, Legionella,
Yes.
etc. is another safety aspect.
Good. Water details of supplier
No, under safety management.
and the safety management. Okay,
Thomas.
Awareness.
okay,
Okay.
Good.
all right, so I can put those changes in.
Yep. Just carry on to your next.
So once we've actually got those red, amber, green type of things, we can have a summary sheet for which covers all of the assets, and it would just be a splattering of colour. And then in terms of the asset priority, we discussed, Emmett and myself discussed this. So what I've done here is I've listed all of the different assets. So the Guildhall is owned by DBC. From a business perspective, because of the potential high expenditure on maintenance, the high running costs and the underutilisation, from a business point of view, that's high. But from a strategic point of view, you know, the council has to operate, Sandwich Town Council has to operate out of the council chambers here, and it's been here for hundreds of years, and, you know, I don't think we're going to. So, kind of going through the various assets that we lease, there's the Guildhall forecourt, and I put that down as medium because there is a need to maximise the revenue from that we all know about, but again, that's core. The public conveniences on the quay, you know, from a business point of view, that's what the council is about. Operating toilets, so that's there. The public conveniences on Castle Market, I think an upgrade is required there. They're getting a bit dated. So, you know, that's why we've kind of got there. Then the drill hall, now we're into assets owned by Sandwich Town Council. We said that was medium because there's talk about the leaseholder trying to reassign itself a lease. Is it being used as originally intended? And the asset of community interest is expiring. But from a strategic point of view, I think there are questions to be asked. Is what community benefit does Sandwich Town Council actually get realised from owning a restaurant building? We've got a loan of £350,000 that's costing, I can't remember, 17 or 18,000 a year to service.
Yeah.
And then we have to pay insurance for the building on top of that. And there's the margin that we make is that balanced with the risk. You know, what happens? Yeah. So I think, you know, that's something for us to kind of to review. Then there's other things like the Boatman's Hill, Chapel. We need to understand the potential options there. Whereas with the back lane allotments and the various allotments, I think it's relatively low. The War Memorial, you know, we own that. Fishergate. You know, there's this lease fund to the Heritage Commission, but what are they actually going to do? You know, the building actually needs upgrade. Are they committing to spending some money to upgrade it? So these are kind of the questions. Sorry, and then I'll finish. The Empire Cinema, it's a high expenditure and the upgrade is needed there. So that we've kind of classified as red. The long-term viability of it. And from a strategic point of view, without the Toll Bridge Fund ownership, you know, the amenity may well close up. And St. Peter's Day and Social Hall, which is rented out as a gym, you know, what's happening there. So those, the ones which are the reds would be the ones where we should take our review first as a priority, is what the suggestion is, followed by the ambers and then the green. Does that make sense?
That's me. Yeah. No, I think this is exactly what we need to inform an asset management strategy.
Yeah.
Because we've missed opportunities in the town. You know, like the schoolhouse, the solicitor's building, certain hardware store, which we could, you know, with a proper strategy, you could have said, okay, we can sell this and buy this, and you know, it would make more long-term sense.
Okay, so that was the suggestion of kind of some priorities. So, you know, we can, if we're all in agreement, given the focus, then when we come to these, we need to fill the reds, then the ambers out first, working those first.
And the spreadsheet, once it's completed, can you use formulas within it? So for example, a formula to say, right, what's the annual rental income total from all the assets? What's the annual cost of the lift, or the annual cost of electricity, or annual cost of inspections, etc. Drilling down into different categories.
Well, absolutely, because what we could do is we could just have a summary sheet that goes horizontal through all of the 18 or 19 sheets, just with a solid centre.
Yeah, okay.
Just remember the split between council and public fund.
Yes.
Well, because of the I understand.
And I suppose the other thing is for an asset management strategy to work out, you know, rental income per square metre. That kind of thing.
They haven't put any metrics about the
No,
size of the facility.
you know, are you getting a commercial rate, or are you subsidising? And clearly the cinema and other buildings will
so let's just trigger the pause. What about valuations as well?
Yeah, that
We did talk about this, though, isn't it?
yeah, that should go in there.
So we've got kind of got a current valuation, current value, acquisition cost, book value, and current value.
Because this was a question for the Solbridge Fund, wasn't it, about assets?
Yes.
Because in the
Yes.
accounts, they're valued at cost value, not current value. And my argument would be that the Solbridge Fund should represent an accurate vision of the current value of the fund, not 20, 30 years ago.
It's one of the first jobs of the assets.
Yeah. Among many others.
New valuations, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all happy with that?
Yeah.
Good. So I'd like to thank you for doing it, because I think it's, and Danielle, you're involved as well.
No, Peter does all the hard work. I haven't done that. It's my group, but it's
Team effort.
So my suggestion would be, because I think it would be a bit awkward to try and dive into a lot of stuff here. I think the fact that we've achieved saying that we're content with this as a group, that's brilliant. And I think we should take that to finance and Depot to say this is what we're working with and share that out. What I would suggest, Colin, if you're in agreement, is that the subgroup, which means you can then relax a bit, and if you want to get involved, as a subgroup can now take its collateral, because this is all from our subgroup. You can try and map across on the priorities first, and then we can meet again once we've run some of this. So we could meet in 2 or 3 weeks' time, do an exercise, then come back to the group in a month's time and say this is what we've done. We can say it's worked or it hasn't.
Yeah, but the other thing for me is the SharePoint site where all of this data is going to sit. You know, the summary spreadsheets is one thing, but you know, the data behind it, and you must have a lot of data in files that might need scanning and loading on, so that you know it's all electrified.
Yes.
And then linked to the.
Yeah.
So will there be one master document that you or someone will input, like your input?
Well,
I think
that's the
You don't want people fiddling
No,
around
I think
and
ultimately it's not an
deleting.
officer's job, is
Yeah,
it?
it would be, yeah.
Decide over the
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
But it should be on OneDrive or whatever we're
Yeah.
talking about, you know, with cloudy IT or whatever,
Yeah.
but we need to have that SharePoint site behind which actually houses all of the information so people can find it, because
It will be a bit like a jigsaw puzzle with big bits missing.
That's,
Kind of a bit
And I think for this working group, as it stands, you are currently holding that data sheet. If you can do whatever changes that come out of this smaller number, and then you can share that with me for our subgroup to then take ownership of it whilst we do our own second and come back to possibly.
can I copy it?
Yeah, and you look at it from outside, looking in and test it. Yeah. Anything else? I'm just hesitant to start looking. I don't think it's now unless people would love to dive in and look at the stuff.
Okay, so just so that I'm clear.
Yeah.
So I've got this spreadsheet.
Yeah.
That we've agreed kind of in principle. And I'm going to replicate that 18 times for all of the different assets.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Will you have it on one Excel?
files.
Yeah, 18 tabs.
18 tabs.
Yeah, I wonder whether you need two, one for the top and one for the council.
Well,
I mean, they are separate.
yeah, I know, but the way I've set it up, was we've got the lease ones, the town council owned ones, and Oldbridge owned ones, so it would be,
Yeah, overriding in some change, not both.
yeah. But we can always just,
It can be disentangled if needed, but I think for now let's keep it as one document. But through experience as an officer owning it, then we want to break it down
But if it's 18 separate sheets, then presumably we can each individually
Yes.
do the bits
Yeah.
we've worked on.
How long do you think you need to set the MC up?
18 minutes? Yeah, well, I'd be able to do it in a couple of hours. I would have thought, putting the names and everything on the tab and the top of it.
My point would be that if yourself, me, and we arrange to a couple of times, so a couple of weeks we can go and do it, and then we've got the whole sheet, so the whole
Yeah.
workbook to use.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Wanting to update you on the cinema.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Um, So I've been trying to arrange a meeting with Lincoln,
Okay.
and I'm hoping now to meet with him next week.
Yep.
It's been fairly forthcoming. I met with someone because I've taken on the task of writing this history of the cinema. So I've been going through all the boxes next door
Yeah.
that Millie's provided, which are very interesting. And I met with someone a couple of weeks ago who worked at who knows Lincoln well, and he worked at the cinema between 1993
Yep.
and it reopened as a cinema up until 2005. So, and he's got a massive archive himself in the history, really interesting. And Vinton wants to now meet with me to talk about his memories, because he took on the lease in '93 actually.
Yeah.
Although he wasn't directly managing it during that 12-year period. And from that, and he has promised to give me a copy of his lease, which will hopefully shed some light on exactly what's going on. And also, I'd like to set up a meeting with the friends of the cinema so that we can offer help with refurbishment, cleaning, and but really the long term is for the assets officer to take on the whole issue of potential grant funding and investment and refurbishment and succession planning as well with Lindsay.
Yeah.
So that's where we are with that. But it's a slow process.
Yes. Okay, so thank you.
Sorry, can I just ask, does he trade as a company or is he a sole individual?
He trades as a company called Empire Kiosk.
Yeah.
And the accounts are on the company's house website. The margins are, very thin, and the rent we charge is very low. And that's one of the issues is about numbers.
But in terms of fire safety and stuff like that, all up to date, has anybody checked all of that?
I hope
To
so.
know the seating and stuff like that?
Well, my assumption is that he has a full repair and lease, which would give him a legal duty to deal with all those issues.
But the answer is no.
Well, that would be my concern as a trustee of Sandwich Tollbridge Plumbing, because the materials of construction for seats in terms of flame retardant and all of that business will probably change or have the fire brigade done an inspection of it, things like curtains and stuff like this. It's just,
The seats, I think, were put there in 2003. I think they came from Savage Wells.
Yes, you did, yes.
Curtains, I don't know.
these are the things
Yeah.
that
They're all
we
potentially
as
flammable.
trustees should, and owners of the facility should
Have knowledge of.
have some assurance of,
Yes,
some
sure.
paperwork in
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
to say that, the fire escapes have been checked, materials of construction, everything. The fire, public fire certificate, if it's needed for the building has been granted.
But also, I've been speaking to someone who's a volunteer or trustee, I'm not sure which, at White Mill.
Okay.
And there are issues there about the future of that I mean, obviously they're doing a great job with the mill and everything else, but it could be a lot bigger and better as a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
Because it's effectively a mini, farmland museum, historical.
Yeah.
It's got, I don't know if you've been there, but it's
Yeah.
got all the blacksmiths and the
Yeah.
stables and everything
Yeah.
else. So it's kind of under publicised and underused, I think. So something to bear in mind.
Okay, anything else from anybody? No. So the plan is that myself, Colin and Nick will meet when Nick returns. So that looks like we commence on the 22nd of April. Should be able to find slots in there. And then we'll do our work and then we convene this group either the 2nd or 3rd week of May. And then we can present back what we've done and then decide what we do from there. But we will focus on the priority as first.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good. Thank
thank
you.
you very much.
Okay.